YouTube, the New Orleans Pelicans are one of the more underrated teams in the Western Conference and the NBA in general. I'm going to explain why in this video I believe that, and why we should be taking the Pelicans seriously as a Western Conference contender this season if one thing happens for them, and this thing is a very important thing that will probably determine their season. But assuming everything goes well in this regard, I personally think the New Orleans Pelicans should be in the discussion moving forward for a legitimate Western Conference contender to teams like Denver, OKC, and Minnesota as the playoffs roll around in just a couple weeks. Let's talk about it, folks. So as I mentioned, there's one thing that really is going to depend the New Orleans Pelicans season, and if it goes as planned, I'm going to explain why this team should be taken more seriously than it is and why this team is so slept on in the Western Conference. The thing that I'm referring to is, well, I guess it's kind of two things rolled into one. Brandon Ingram's health as the playoffs roll around. If he can get healthy by the time the playoffs tip off, because currently he is out with a knee injury, and the Pelicans, I believe, are saying that they're going to reevaluate him next week, and they're expecting him to be back with the team on the floor by the time the play-in tournament rolls around. So if that happens, if he's able to get back to, close to 100% by the time the play-in starts, everything I said about them being a legitimate contender would prove to be true, in my opinion. And also, if they can land a actual playoff spot and not really get into the play-in tournament, kind of stay out of that in the 6 or 5 seed range, I think they are to be taken as seriously as some of these other teams like the Clippers, Thunder, and Timberwolves. Let's just take a look at the Western Conference standings as it sits right now, and why, if New Orleans can hang around that 6 or 5 seed and stay out of the play-in tournament, they have a legit shot in the West to at least make the Western Conference Finals. So as I go through this video, I'm just going to be assuming that Brandon Ingram is going to play as soon as the play-in tournament / playoffs start. So this is a scenario where everyone's healthy for the Pelicans, right? Including Brandon Ingram, most importantly. Like I said, if they can hang on to that 6 seed right now, with Sacramento and Phoenix and the Lakers right behind them, they would just match up against the Clippers with the 4 seed, because like I said, currently they're the 6 seed, but as we know, the West is a really tight race right now. If they were to get into the play-in game, they'd probably have to play either Phoenix, Sacramento, the Lakers, or Golden State. So, the play-in game would be a really dangerous thing for them to be in. Even at full strength, I think that's pretty obvious for any of those teams. That's going to be really unpredictable play-in tournament. But assuming they hang on to this 6 seed, let's just paint a scenario here. Like I said, they would match up against the LA Clippers. I personally think it would be a very good series in the first round against the Clippers, and I think people would pick the Clippers naturally because of the superstar power that they have and how they played throughout the season. But I also think the Pelicans might even just be a better team than the Clippers right now at full strength. Let's talk about why. So the things the Pelicans have going for them are really great things for a playoff team, and not only do they have a bit of playoff experience under their belt and a great coach to go with it in Willie Green, I just really like the way the Pelicans are constructed roster wise for a playoff series against some of these teams. Like, at point guard, you're basically running CJ McCollum, who I believe has become one of the most underappreciated players in the entire league and one of the most underrated players in the entire league. CJ is playing just about as well as he ever has. I mean, averaging 19 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, proving that he can be a legitimate point guard in the league and not so much an off-ball 2 guard. He does play a lot off-ball, obviously, because of the other ball handlers they have on the team, like Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, but he also is very capable of being a primary playmaker. I think that's been proven throughout his time with the Pelicans, really showing that he's able to make a lot of the right plays from that point guard position and be careful with the basketball and not turn it over. Obviously, CJ is going to add a lot of gravity to any lineup he's with on the floor and, be a real threat from outside. Right now, he's shooting 41% from 3 on 8 attempts a game, which is really solid. And, combined with that playmaking ability and the lineups they run him with a lot of great athletes, I think his value, like I said, is super slept on. But CJ is a really great third option on this team. I just want to get that out of the way. And then you have Brandon Ingram, who is one of the more versatile offensive players in the entire NBA, not just scoring the ball, but one of the more underrated playmakers that we have in the league, averaging 6 assists, but that doesn't really do it justice. I think he's one of the better playmakers that we don't talk about. Like I said, his scoring versatility and efficiency is always super dominant. And, at 6'10", being able to handle the ball like he does and get to the line 5 times a game and shoot from the outside and create his own shot, elite shot creation. Brandon Ingram's a real matchup nightmare and problem for any team in the playoffs. Even the Clippers, who have a lot of good personnel to be able to defend him with guys like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Now, the big thing about the Pelicans that I don't think people really understand that separates them for me from a lot of these other teams in the West is their size. Let's talk about their first option, Zion Williamson, who is putting together one of his best seasons, and not really a lot of people are talking about it. I think he shut a lot of people up that were criticizing him. I think the criticisms were a little bit fair for a lot of the times, but he's played 64 games this season, averaging 23 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and just being the dominant force that we all know him to be. He's not currently shooting threes like at all, but dude is scoring 23 points a game and and adding 6 rebounds and 5 assists to that. Again, another really underrated playmaker, in my opinion, Zion Williamson. And he's doing, he's shooting 58% from the floor. So I just don't think a lot of these teams are going to be able to stop that in transition. And then the Pelicans, the way they operate on offense is like, okay, we're going to get a lot of athletes on the floor, like Herb Jones and Zion Williamson and Najee Marshall and guys like that, Larry Nance as well. And then we're going to have guys be able to run the break extremely well and get to the rim, get to the free throw line and stuff like that. And then we're going to have like elite shooters around them, like Trey Murphy. Herb Jones is a really solid catch and shoot guy as well. Jonas Valanciunas can shoot the 3 as a 5, can stretch the floor, provides really, really solid rebounding and size at his position. Like I said, the combination of athleticism and, fast break offense, which is always going to be a problem with the New Orleans Pelicans if you're an opposing defense, because you always have to worry about the leak outs and fast break, because not only do they have great athletes running the floor who can score in transition and get to the free throw line, but they also have great playmakers to be able to set those guys up. And the guys that are running the break themselves are super good playmakers. So you combine the athleticism, the ability to run the break and score in transition, like Zion Williamson and these other guys, and then you add great shooting around them. So, Zion's running the break, and then CJ or Trey Murphy runs the break with him. Okay, let's just say it's a 3-on-3 even. CJ and Trey Murphy stop at the corner or, the top of the key. Zion gets downhill. It's just an open 3. So there's going to be a lot of open shots no matter how you play the Pelicans defensively. Open 3s, and they have great shooting, like I said, but their size in the paint, their rebounding, and their defense as well, it's just super underrated to me. And I think the matchups are going to be a nightmare. Let's just talk about the front court for the Pelicans. It's going to be something like Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, and Jonas Valanciunas. That is a nightmare front court matchup. That's just going to be relentless physicality and skill set. And then you got creators like Brandon Ingram and like CJ McCollum, elite sniper shooters like, Jordan Hawkins and Trey Murphy. And then you have guys that are like utility guys that are super versatile, like Najee Marshall and Herb Jones, who is one of the best defenders in the league. Herb Jones is super underrated as a player. He just does so many great things for the Pelicans night in and night out. Najee Marshall is also one of my favorite role players in the league. I think he's super valuable as a role player and super underrated. I think more people should be appreciating Najee Marshall for his contributions to the Pelicans. Super reliable, versatile role player for them. And then, like I said, a very great system and coach Willie Green has put together. They built a pretty good culture there. I think they're a real problem in the first round for a team like the Clippers or just anyone in that, top tier. I think OKC would definitely be able to match up well against the Pelicans. I think that'd be an issue for New Orleans, but I also think teams like Minnesota, whoever they play, it's gonna be a handful, right? And then you have like guys that are just dogs, like Jose Alvarado. Larry Nance is super, super underrated these days. They just have a lot of great versatility, I think, lineup wise, and they have a lot of great athletes and guys that are able to create problems or matchups in these situations. And then they have a lot of great skill set guys that can take advantage of these matchups, like Zion, BI, and CJ McCollum. So I think the Pelicans are a team that nobody's really talking about in terms of being able to get to like the Western Conference Finals. I just want to highlight in this video that if Brandon Ingram is able to be healthy by the play-in tournament, assuming they're in the play-in tournament, I think they have as good a shot as anyone to be able to make it out of the play-in. I think the Pelicans are an absolute nightmare for one of these top teams in the conference. And let's just say Brandon Ingram doesn't return by the end of the season and they end up sliding in the Western Conference playoffs to about the 7th or 8th seed and they have to get out of the play-in. Listen, if I'm the Lakers or the Warriors or the Suns or the Mavericks or Sacramento, any of these teams, I am absolutely terrified of matching up against the Pelicans in a play-in tournament. The team is just, they're a handful. Like I said, they're so big, and I think the Lakers will be able to match up with that size really well. But I just think the defensive versatility, and they could beat you in so many ways. Like I said, matchup nightmare. A team like the Warriors, I think, would really be in trouble against a team like the New Orleans Pelicans on paper, just with the matchups, right? Obviously, the Warriors have all the experience, and they're gonna make it tough on anyone. But listen, the Pelicans are slept on in the Western Conference, super slept on. I think more people should be talking about it. I just want to highlight in this video how I think if all goes right, in terms of health and Brandon Ingram, and by the end of the season, they're in a fortunate enough position to where they don't match up against like a Denver or an OKC or have to fight out of that play-in tournament. I think they are a Western Conference ceiling type team. I think more people should be respecting them in that regard. Anyways, that's gonna be it for the video. Hope you guys really enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comment section what you guys think of the New Orleans Pelicans. Do you think they're at that level that I said, or do you think, maybe they're not quite there yet? Like I said, I think they're about as good as anyone in that second tier of teams in the West. They're going to be a problem in the playoffs no matter what, assuming Brandon Ingram's healthy. I would predict them to come out of the play-in tournament. They could be a really, really close series if you started the playoffs right now. They had to go against the Clippers or the Mavs or the Suns or just anyone of that tier of team. I think the top 3 teams in the West are going to be my picks to come out of the West or get to the conference finals, but the West is going to be tough this year, and there's going to be a lot of upsets in the playoffs, in my opinion, in the Western Conference. And I think the Pelicans are one of my favorite teams in an upset type scenario. Like I said, let me know down in the comments if you think I'm wrong or what you guys think about my take on that. Who do you think comes out of the West? Who do you think makes the conference finals? And let me know if you're a Pelicans fan. I'd love to get your perspective on your team and how far you think the ceiling is. There's a couple teams in the West that I really like matchup wise for any team, and the Pelicans are one of them. I think any matchup they get, they're going to be able to give them a really tough series. And that's just how I feel. Make sure you guys drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Really helps me out. We're trying to get to 12,000 subscribers as soon as possible. I'm posting a lot of videos before the playoffs start, and as the playoffs are happening, I'm going to be posting close to every day. That's what I'm going to try to accomplish. But if you don't want to miss any future videos like this, make sure you guys subscribe and turn those post notifications on to get notified every time we upload. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Hopefully your favorite team wins their next game, and hopefully your favorite team can stay out of the 6th seed and have their second best player healthy to stay out of that Western Conference play-in tournament. Stop sleeping on the Pelicans, folks. I will talk to you guys in the next one. This is your boy D Haven. As always, peace.